Hare Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna. Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna. Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna devotees, please accept my humble obeisances. Augustishwar Prabhupada, welcome devotees to morning Bhagavatam class. This morning we will be discussing from Chaitanya Charitamrita, Adi Lila, chapter 3, verses 70 and 71. And the chapter is entitled The External Reasons for the Appearance of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. The class will be given by His Grace Pritchard Prabhu from ISKCON Harrisburg. And without further delay, we will start the class. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Vihari. Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Vihari. Jaya Gopijana Vallabha Girivardhari. Jaya Gopijana Vallabha Girivardhari. Yashodanandana Rajadhanaranjana. Yashodanandana Rajadhanaranjana. Yamuna Tira Vanachari. Yamuna Tira Vanachari. Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja-Vihari. Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja-Vihari. Jaya Gopijana Vallabha Girivardhari. Jaya Gopijana Vallabha Girivardhari. Yashodanandana Vrajajanaranjana. Yashodanandana Vrajajanaranjana. Yamuna Tira Vanachari. Yamuna Tira Vanachari. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Jaya Prabhupada, 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 Srila Prabhupada, Haribo, 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 Nitai Gora, Haribo, Nitai Gora, Haribo, 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 Nitai Gora, Haribo, Jaya Jaya Gurudev, 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 Jaya Jaya Gurudev, Jaya Jaya Gurudev, 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 Jaya Jaya Gurudev. Jayam Vishnupad Paramhansa Parivajikacharya Stotra Satyasri Maharaj Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Shri Prabhupada Ki Jai. Jayam Vishnupad Paramhansa Parivajikacharya Astotra Satyasri Maharaj Divine Grace Shri Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur Maharaj Prabhupada Ki Jai. Ananta Koti Vaishnavin Ki Jai. Namacharya Sri Haridas Thakur Ki Jai. ISKCON founder Charja Shri Prabhupada Ki Jai. Prem Se Kaho Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Sri Advaita Gadadhara Shivashari Gaur Bhaktivinoda Ki Jai. Shri Shri Radha Krishna Gopa Gopinath Sham Kund Radha Kund Giri Govardhan Ki Jai. Vrindavan Dham Ki Jai. Mathura Dham Ki Jai. Navadvip Dham Ki Jai. Jagannath Puri Dham Ki Jai. Jagannath Swami Ki Jai. Ganga Mai Ki Jai. Jamuna Mai Ki Jai. Tulsi Devi Ki Jai, Bhakti Devi Ki Jai, Hare Krishna Mahamantra Ki Jai, Samaveta Vindu Bhakti Ki Jai, Samaveta Bhakti Vindu Ki Jai, Nitai Gaura Premanande, Hari Hari Bo. All glories to the assembled devotees, Hare Krishna. All glories to the assembled devotees, Hare Krishna. All glories to the assembled devotees, Hare Krishna. All glories to the lotus feet of Sri Sri Guru and Gauranga Srila Prabhupada. Namo Vishnu Padaya Krishna Krishnaya Bhutale Srimati Bhakti Devi Swami Tinali. Namaste Krishna Padaya Prabhupada Siddharthani. Sri Gaura Karna Shakti Bhakti Devi. Jaya Jaya Sri Chaitanya Jaya Nityananda Jaya Advaita Chandra Jaya Gaura Bhakta Vrinda. Jaya Jaya Shri Chaitanya, Jaya Nityananda, Jaya Advaita Chandra, Jaya Gaura Bhakta Vrinda. Jaya Jaya Shri Chaitanya, Jaya Nityananda, Jaya Advaita Chandra, Jaya Gaura Bhakta Vrinda. Good morning, devotees. This morning's class is from Chaitanya Charitamrita, Adi Lila, chapter 3, text 70. And we will do text 71 also. So I'll read that 3 times, and anyone who's inclined to sing it also can do so. Jala Sahi Antaryami Ye Narayana Setumara Amsa Tumi Mula Narayan Jala Sahi Antaryami Ye Narayan Sehutumar Amsa Tumi Mula Narayan Jala Sahi Antaryami Ye Narayan Seho Tomar Amsatumi Mula Narayan. Hare Krishna.
Jalasai Antaryami Ye Narayana Seho Tomara Amsha Tumi Mula Narayana. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Anyone else?
Jalasai Antaryami Yena Narayana Seho Tumara Amsha Tumi Mula Narayana. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Anyone else? All right. I read the book.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Jal sayat antar adamat ye नारायणा ते हो तुम्हारा अंश तुम्ही मूल नारायणा.
Yeah. Hare Krishna.
हरे हरे कृष्ण.
All right. Word for word. Jalashai, lying in the water. Antayami, indwelling supersoul. Ye, he who. Narayana, Lord Narayan. Seho, he. Tumara, you. Sorry, your. Amsha, plenary portion. To me, you. Mula, original. Narayan, Narayan. Translation by His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada. Jai Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. The manifestation of the Narayan who predominates in everyone's heart, as well as the Narayan who lives in the waters, Karana, Garbha, Shira, is your plenary portion. Therefore, you are therefore the original Narayan. Okay. We'll go to text 71 now. Just go, please. Go to the next text, please. So text 71. Anga Shabdi Amsakali Sehu Satyai Maya Karya Nahi Jabati Anandamai. Word for word. Anga Shabdi, by the word Anga. Ansa, plenary portion. Kahi, one means. Seho, that. Satya, the truth. Hai is Maya, or the material energy. Karya, the work. Nahi is not. Sava, all. Chit Ananda Maya, full of knowledge and bliss. Translation by His Divine Grace Srila Prabhupada. The word anga indeed refers to plenary portions. Such manifestations should never be considered products of material nature, for they are all transcendental, full of knowledge, and full of bliss. Purport by Srila Prabhupada. In the material world, if a fragment is taken from an original object, the original object is reduced by the removal of that fragment. But the Supreme Personality of Godhead is not at all affected by the actions of Maya. Its Upanishad says, Om Purnam Ada Purnam Idam, Purnat Purnam Udachete, Purnasya Purnam Adaya, Purnam Evashishate. The personality of Godhead is perfect and complete, and because he is completely perfect, all emanations from him, such as this phenomenal world, are perfectly equipped as complete wholes. Whatever is produced of the complete whole is also complete in itself. Because he's a complete whole, even though so many complete units emanate from him, he remains a complete balance. This is the invocation from Sri Upanishad. In the realm of the absolute, 1 plus 1 equals 1, and 1 minus 1 equals 1. Therefore, one should not conceive of a fragment of the Supreme Lord in the material sense. In the spiritual world, there's no influence of the material energy or material calculations of fragments. In the 15th chapter of Bhagavad Gita, the Lord says that the living entities are his parts and parcels. There are innumerable living entities throughout the material and spiritual universes. But still, Lord Krishna is full in himself. You think that God has lost his personality because of his many parts and parcels, because his many parts and parcels are distributed all over the universe, it's an illusion. That is a material calculation. Such calculations are possible only under the influence of the material energy Maya. In the spiritual world, the material energy is conspicuous only by its absence. In the category of Vishnu Tattva, there is no loss of power from one expansion to the next, any more than there is a loss of illumination as one candle kindles another. Thousands of candles may be kindled by an original candle, and all will have the same candle power. In this way, it is to be understood that although all the Vishnu Tattvas from Krishna and Lord Chaitanya to Rama, Sringa, Varaha, and so on appear with different features in different ages, they are all equally invested with supreme potency. Demigods such as Lord Brahma and Lord Shiva come in contact with the material energy, and their power and potency are therefore of different gradations. All the incarnations of Vishnu, however, are equal in potency, for the influence of Maya cannot even approach them. Oma Ginati Vidandasya, Gyana Gina Shalakaya, Chakshu Umilitam Jina Tasmai Sri Guruve Namaha. Sri Chaitanya Manovistam Stapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamayam Dadanti Swaha Padantikam. Vandeham Sri Guru Sri Yuta Padakamalam Sri Guru Vaisnavam Scha. Sri Rupa Sagajatam Sagana Raghunatam Vitam Tan Sajivam. Sadhuitam Savadutam Parijana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Deva. Sri Radha Krishna Pada Sagana Lalita Sri Vishakam Vitam Scha. Hey Krishna Karuna Sindhu Dina Bandhu Jagatpate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namostite. Tapta Kanchana Gorangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Vishabhan Sute Devi Panamami Hari Piri. Vanchakalpatrubhascha Vipasuniva Evacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha. Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Sri Advaita Gadadhara Shivachari Gaura Bhaktivinoda. Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare. Hare Rama 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 Hare Hare. Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare. Hare Rama 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 Hare Hare. Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare. Hare Rama 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 Hare Hare. Namo Vishnu Padaya Krishna Peshtaya Bhutale Srimati Bhaktivedanta Swami Iti Namine. Namaste Saraswati Devi Gauravani Pacharine. Nirvishesha Sunyavari Paschachari Sitarine. Namo Mahabharanyaya Krishna Prema Padayate Krishnaya Krishna Chaitanya Namni Gaurati Se Namaha. Ananda Lila Maya Vigrahaya Himavya Divecha Vishnaraya. Tasmi Mahaprema Raspadaya Chaitanya Chandaya Namo Namaste. Chaitanya Chandaya Namo Namaste. Chaitanya Chandaya Namo Namaste. Chaitanya Chandaya Namo Namaste. Hare Krishna. So, the texts 70 and 71, text 70 says that the manifestation of Narayan, who predominates in everyone's heart, as well as the Narayan who lives in the waters, Karana, Garva, and Kshira, is your plenary expansion. Therefore, you are the original Narayan. The word Anga, which is 71, refers to many plenary portions. Such manifestations should never be considered products of material nature, but they are all transcendental, full of knowledge, and full of bliss. So, these two texts are describing the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Narayan, the expansions of the Lord. The Lord Narayan himself is an expansion from Sri Krishna, the original, through Balaram, through Chakravyuha, which is Vasudeva, Aniruddha, Sankarshan, Pradyumna. Sankarshan portion expands to Narayan. Narayan expands to the second Chakravyuha, Vasudeva, Aniruddha, Sankarshan, Pradyumna. And again, Sankarshan from this second expansion expands, and we get the portion of Vishnu, the plenary portion of Vishnu, Mahavishnu, from whom the universes come from his pores when he sleeps on the Karana waters. He expands then to Garbhodakshai Vishnu, and Garbhodakshai Vishnu is a Vishnu that's lying. Shai is to lie, Garbha is water, and Daka is water, and then Garbha is the particular water, Garbha. And then Kshirodakshaya Vishnu. We was talked a little bit here, manifestation of Narayan who predominates in everyone's heart. And also at the same time lying in the Kshira water, Kshirodakshaya Vishnu. They are all the plenary portions of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. So then there's a connection to the next one, which is very nice indeed. The word Anga refers to plenary portions. So Anga Shabde. So by the word Anga, Amsa is also noted plenary portions. So there's Amsa, there's Kala. We'll get into all of those later. This is quoted nicely in Bhagavatam, Ete Chamsa Kala Pusam, Krishna Su Bhagavan Swayam. So the Supreme Personality of Godhead is incredible because when we hear in the material energy, consider something expanding out of another thing. As Srila Prabhupada says, from the effect of Maya, if we subtract a portion from a whole, then what's left, we call it the remainder, what's left over. And the remainder is usually smaller than the original because a portion has come off. We did enough subtractions in elementary school, we know that. 20 numbers to subtract. You can either do it in your head, or if it's a bigger one, you just have a way of doing all of the subtraction. But the word is not used here. Subtraction is not used here. Expansion is used. And on top of that, we're told it's a spiritual expansion. There is no material tinge or material influence in that. And therefore, Srila Prabhupada explains that in the spiritual world, you add 1 to 1, you get 1, you don't get 2. And you subtract 1 from 1, you don't get 0, you still get 1. Now, the important, he gives also in another lecture the analogy of what the ocean is like. You can pour countless buckets of water into the ocean and it will appear the same. You can take countless buckets of water from the ocean and it will still appear the same. That's as close as an analogy as we can give about the Lord. But that's not even enough because the Lord is wonderful in so many attributes that obviously the ocean does not have. Now, in this Upanishad, it's explained nicely there, which we'll get to. The Lord, the indwelling supersoul, is what is talked about first. Kshirodakshaya Vishnu. Spend some time talking about Kshirodakshaya Vishnu. Kshirodakshaya Vishnu is the one that appeared to Dhruva Maharaj. When Dhruva Maharaj was in the forest, he was very, very upset that his stepmother had not allowed him to sit on his father's lap. He had a brother called Uttama. Uttama's mother was Suruchi, the stepmother of Dhruva. Dhruva had his own mother called Suniti. And so Dhruva got upset that his stepmother did not allow or banned him from sitting on his father's lap when his brother Uttama was already sitting on his father's lap. Father was a king. So when he went to complain bitterly to his mother, when Dhruva went, finally in the conversation, he found out that the Supreme Personality of Godhead was in the forest, and the Supreme Personality of Godhead was him, the one that could give him his big wish of a bigger planet than what his father was ruling and even a bigger planet than any person in the material world, including Lord Brahma. He went to the forest, and Narada Muni was very nice to him, came up and tried to convince him to come home, but he wouldn't, and he was determined to see the Lord. Well, if you want to see the Lord, then the Lord, Narada Muni's business is all about the Lord. So then Narada guided him on how to see the Lord by asking him to chant Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya, and how to prepare himself in the morning and where to go in the forest to chant. All of that was explained. And Dhruva followed it with great focus, great concentration, until the Lord approached him. 5 months later, 5 months. It takes some of us a long time to just get purified. Years go by. Dhruva was so focused, and that was the difference. He was determined, he was focused. The Lord protected him from wild animals in the forest. And when he appeared in his wonderful glory, four-handed Vishnu form. And then he touched the Lord, and Dhruva's forehead was touched by the Lord's conch shell, and he got purified immediately. And now his wishes for something big and material, he abandoned immediately. When the Lord said he would give him what he wished materially, Dhruva says, I was looking for broken pieces of glass, and now I found diamond. You are the diamond. There's no need to get anything material. It's a lesson to learn. Because when the Lord is present and the devotee is completely convinced about the power of the Lord and he surrenders to the Lord, many instances, one after another, would show that the Lord is there to protect the person. All we have to do is to believe fully that Krishnastu Bhagavan Swayam, and that he is spiritual and his activities, Janma Karma Chame Divyam, his birth or his appearance and his activities anywhere are not material. They are all transcendental. They are divine. And there's a boon for that. When someone has that understanding and it's in their heart and they would never give up that particular understanding, that person is connected with Krishna, and he says that you won't stay in this material world, you'll come to me. And so we have to be around devotees who believe the same thing, and that will cement or reinforce our belief in the Supreme Personality of Godhead and the things that we've been told in order to connect with him, shared, our duties, as has been shared and explained by the spiritual master, will be followed. And from that, because if you believe in something, then you do whatever it is connected to that thing. If you really believe in something, you will do what is connected with that. So if you do believe strongly in the Supreme Personality of Godhead, then what the Supreme Personality of Godhead says to do, you will do, because that is proof that you believe in the Lord. So the first text says here in 70, the manifestation of Narayan who predominates in everyone's heart, in Chirodakshaya Vishnu. It's your plenary portion. So you are the Krishna is the original Narayan. Now, in the second text, that concentrates more on the plenary portions. Those are not from material nature. They are all transcendental, and you see how it ended? Full of knowledge, and of course, full of eternality, and also full of bliss. That is the nature of the soul. The Supreme Soul is the Supreme Personality of Godhead. And we are parts and parcels, minute parts and parcels. of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Similar in quality, but abilities, no. We are very tiny, and the tiny thing can only do so much. Large things can do more or have greater properties than small, even though the constituent property, the essential properties are the same. So, Srila Prabhupada said, and sometimes you want to see what the Lord is like, look at a regular person, what they act like. That's the Lord. The only difference is, if you look at a person in the material world, they act from a material standpoint, which is a contaminated standpoint. But even though there's contamination, you can still tell the qualities of the Lord by the qualities, how we behave. We get happy, sometimes we can get funny, sometimes we get, morose. So all of that, the Lord has all of those. And that's why we are like that. All our emotions come from Krishna. And in different times, Krishna exhibits those emotions too. But from a spiritual standpoint, not a material standpoint. And the great thing about the Lord is Maya cannot touch the Lord. He's a master of Maya. And Maya controls the material world. So the actions of the Supreme Personality of Godhead is not at all affected by the actions of Maya. So sometimes when we read, pardon me, let me just digress a little bit. Sometimes we read some of the pastimes of the Supreme Personality of Godhead in the scriptures. It's incredible. How is it that he can lift the Govardhan Hill, the mountain, and is supported at a young age by the smallest finger in his left hand for 7 days. The Lord is incredible. And we try to say, oh, well, maybe he uses potency to make Govardhan Hill light and something, but that's all material type thinking. No. The Lord is incredible. There's so many things he can do that we just can't wrap our minds around. And he still does it. So Maya cannot touch the Lord. As Srila Prabhupada says in the Upanishad, the personality of Godhead is perfect and complete. And the emanations from him, such as this world, is also equipped as complete wholes. So the expansions from the Lord are given by the mercy of the Lord and by the plan of the Lord, whatever is needed. Whatever is needed. This world, even though it's the material world, and the difference between the material world, living in the material world and living in the spiritual world is, in the material world, everything is provided, but you have to work for it. You're in jail, and part of jail time or jail activities is working. In the spiritual world, everything is provided. And it's even much better, several times better than what is in the material world. There is service. There's not work to survive. There is no work to survive. There's just service. And we serve in our original form, we serve in bliss. Happy to serve. So much is provided and so much love is given by all entities towards all other entities. Therefore, everybody is surrounded, every living entity in the spiritual world is surrounded by love. And so there is happiness. And this goes on forever. Goes on forever. Just imagine that. That is home. But when the material world, the Lord expands to do certain activities. And Srila Prabhupada explains that the units that emanate from the Lord are also complete. And therefore, we should never see Lord Vishnu as different in a sense about what Lord Vishnu does and what Krishna does. So, oh, no, it's different. No, it's not. By his supreme will, the Lord does different things with his different expansions. By his supreme will. But the potency, the spiritual potency, that's the same. That is the same. In Vishnu, in Narayan, in the names that we call him, Hari, all of that, the potency is the same. And that's why Srila Prabhupada gives the example that there's an original candle, and the candle, so the expansion is like one candle that is lit. The original candle, Krishna, expanding is like lighting another candle, but it's of the same quality, and it gives the power from the candle is the same as the original power. And that one can light another one, the same size, gives the same original power, same as the original power. And go on and on and on and on and on. Now, there's a slight difference. The slight difference is based on what Krishna wants to do in his expansion. See, for us, we get up, we take a bath, we go to do different things at different places based on what our work is. Sometimes we have to even change. A person that's going to go to court, for example, as a judge, when they go, they have to wear a different type of clothes. A person that is an athlete, has a particular thing that they wear. They play even baseball, they have their outfit that they have to wear. So all of that changes. But what the difference is between us and the Lord is, the Lord will expand into a whole personality for different types of activities. Sometimes that's hard to wrap our minds around, but he expands the different activities for different reasons. Why? Well, he could do everything as Krishna, but by his own supreme will, he decides to come in different ways. Sometimes the original comes two-handed, and sometimes Vishnu comes, the expansion, four-handed, and sometimes the Shringa comes many-handed. Plenty of legs, plenty of not legs, plenty of arms for what he wants to do. And they're all carrying weapons. And there are others, like the universal form, so many heads, countless arms. So all there, but based on what Krishna wants to do or wants to show, then he comes that way. So everything is done according to his supreme will. So then Krishna, Srila Prabhupada is describing that to think that God has lost his personality because his many parts and parcels are distributed all over the universe. He's lost his personality. He's expanded, therefore he's become less. That's an illusion. That's the only mathematical calculation by the material energy would make someone think like that. Now, it may seem that it's not that important a statement, but it's extremely important because Srila Prabhupada is educating us. There are people, and there are some books that have been written by some unscrupulous people talking about God, and sometimes they come up with this. I have seen, even in Christianity, there's a book, The Bible for Children, and I read that. And I was surprised. At that time, I wasn't really, it's for children, like little children. But I saw it and I was quite attracted to it. I was just curious to see what was in it. So I read a little bit of it, and they were talking about Jesus Christ, Jesus the Christ, and his miracles that he performed. And the author had the audacity to say that after Christ performed the miracle drained him so much that he was tired and he had to rest. This is in a book for children. Now, if you know anything about Christianity, you know that can't possibly be true. But it's there that when Christ performs a miracle, then he becomes weak. Well, the first miracle he performed was changing water into wine, and it was there was a reception, and we ran out of wine. Wedding reception, we ran out of wine, and he was requested. Those who knew his potency requested him, and he asked them to pour more water into the original containers that was being supplied. And when they poured the water in, they found out they changed the wine much better tasting than the one that they were supplying that they ran out of. It doesn't say anything that Jesus was tired after changing water into wine, but people do write these things. So then it is important for us to understand the nature of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. By Srila Prabhupada making the point that we are, reading that the Lord expands Balaram, expands to Narayan, expands to different Vishnus. And we might think that, the potency of the Lord is different in the different forms. No, it isn't. The activities that he wants to perform by his own will, he may not perform in certain expansions. Some of the activities may change according to his will, but the potency is there. Which also means that the activities are there to be performed based on how he plans things. Everything is under his plan. So in certain situations, he will not do some things, he will do other things. Like that. Lord Chaitanya came with the Supreme Personality of Godhead. But Lord Chaitanya, it wasn't that he couldn't kill anybody. He decided not to. He decided to change the minds of demonic people rather than kill them. Balaram came as Lord Nityananda. He also didn't kill. So in those incarnations that they came, they were still the Supreme Personality of Godhead, but that was a decision that they had made that they would deal in this material energy by convincing people to come to Krishna consciousness rather than by clearing demons by actually taking their lives. But even when they take their lives, they get so much from it. The Lord liberates them. So the Lord is wonderful in all respects. And the Vishnu Tattvas, Prabhupada explains there's no loss of power at all. But there are demigods like Lord Brahma and Lord Shiva. They are in contact with the material energy. So their power and potency are different. But the incarnations of Vishnu, they're all equal in potency. And Maya cannot touch them. Maya can, in fact, have an effect on Lord Brahma, but it can never have an effect on Lord Vishnu or the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Sri Krishna. So in Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 1, I hope you can hear me, because I've got a sign on there that says connection is unstable.
Yeah, we missed the last two sentences. If you can
Okay.
repeat that. Thank you.
I was mentioning about, did you hear me talk about Lord Brahma? No?
Yes.
Yes, and
Okay.
it stopped over there.
Okay. So the Lord has full potency, but demigods like Lord Brahma and Shiva, they have some contact with the material energy. So their power and potency are a little lower than that of Lord Vishnu. And we'll get into, I know we don't have much time left, but we'll maybe squeeze in some of the potencies in terms of percentage, so you can tell. So in Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 1, Chapter 3, Text 28, Ete Chansha Kalapnisam Krishnastu Bhagavan Swayam Indrali Vyakulam Lokam Vedayanti Yuge Yuge, which means, Ete means all these, Amsa, plenary portions, and Kala is portions of the plenary portions. So the Lord can expand, and from his expansion, expand more, and still the potency is full, like that. Now, the Lord comes as an avatar, descends from his transcendental abode to perform wonderful pastimes. Ava means down, and Tara means movement. So avatar means downward movement or descent, the one who comes down. So the incarnation of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, they come on different planets in the material world, sometimes in different forms, in different species, for particular missions. But that is still the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Like in the case of Lord Parshuram and Lord Nrsimha, they displayed unusual opulence by killing disobedient Kshatriyas. Lord Parshuram killed the administrators 21 times, and Lord Nrsimha killed one big demon, Hiranyakashipu. Hiranyakashipu was so strong that even demigods were simply afraid of him. If he moved his eyebrows, they trembled. That's how powerful he was. But the Lord got rid of him like it was nothing. So the Supreme Personality of Godhead is powerful, and he has all of the properties of the Lord. Krishna has all of it, but in different ways in which Krishna performs, he comes in one way. That's what we talked about, the case of Parshuram, the killing, incarnations of Ram and Dhanvantari, displayed his fame, Balaram and Mohini and Vamana. And we can talk about all these pastimes. We don't have times for those. But they exhibited his beauty. Mohini Murti, beautiful, very, very beautiful. Expansion of Lord Vishnu. Vamana, also very beautiful. And they were all different pastimes. Vamana is connected with Bali Maharaj and Chukracharya. And Mohini, twice, one with Lord Shiva, and also with the demons and the demigods that were churning the ocean. So we don't have time for those pastimes. Renunciation is exhibited by Narayan Rishi. That's still the Supreme Personality of Godhead's incarnation. So he comes in different ways for different purposes that he himself decides. So by that, let me say one more thing and then we'll start. His personal expansion, the Vishnu Tattvas, they possess up to 93% of the transcendental attributes of the Lord. 93%. Lord Shiva is neither an avatar or a Vish, but between them, partly dealing with material energy, but he's also higher than the demigods, okay? And lives in Kailash Hill, which is the border. When you leave the material world, come into the spiritual world, Kailash Hill first. He has about 84% of the Lord's attributes. And the individual, us, jivas, we have only up to 78% of the attributes. Now, having said that, those of us in the material world, we have a very minute portion of this 78% of the Lord's attributes. In other words, in quality, we are the Lord, but we are like the Lord, but in terms of what we are capable of doing, it's up to 78%. And we have it in very, very small quantities, very small quantities. Who has the 78% in full quantity? That is Lord Brahma. That is Lord Brahma. So a person can perfect these qualities until they have it in full, then that would qualify them for the post of Lord Brahma. But we were just having things, and we have so much, there's so much Maya too. So for living entities who are conditioned souls, we have the capacity of getting to that 70 qualities, but still 78% qualities, but still so much that we do is not so right. We are still being trained to become pure. So a pure person will possess these 78 attributes in fullness. So nobody can become that Shiva or Vishnu or Krishna with those qualities. We have 78 and Vishnu and up, they have more. 84, 90, 93, and so on. And Krishna has them in 4. So we can become Brahma in due course if we want that. But that's not what Srila Prabhupada wants us to do. He wants us to go back to the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Therefore, when we think about the Lord, Man Mana Bhava Mat Bhakto, Madhya Jimam Namashkuru, Mam Ivecha Shishatyamte, Pratijane Priyosime. When you think about Man Mana, think about me, always Krishna says, become my devotee, offer obeisances to me, and worship me. If you do these 4 things, you don't have to worry about qualities, where it is. We have an opportunity to go back home. He says, you will come back to me. And if you abandon varieties of religion and understand that Krishna is Stu Bhagavan Swayam, he has everything. And if we depend on him, and if we always do what he says to do through the agency of a spiritual master, then we have, we are with Krishna. We're going to go to Krishna. And one question, the last thing, one question that the devotee asked Srila Prabhupada. I like to bring it up here and tell what Srila Prabhupada responded. So one devotee had asked that Srila Prabhupada, when devotees finish a week as having his pastimes in the material world, and you go be there, and then of course at that time you can see Krishna, and when Krishna winds up his pastimes to go into the spiritual world, then we also can go at that time. Srila Prabhupada didn't say no to that. Srila Prabhupada answered in a transcendental way, because I know the devotee meant that, but you can go straight to the spiritual world, then why go to a place in the material world where Krishna is there performing his pastimes, rather than go directly to the spiritual world, as will happen in the case of some devotees. Srila Prabhupada said, if Krishna is in the material world, I'm paraphrasing it, performing pastimes, and you are born so you can see him and perform and be there with him, you are already with Krishna. If Krishna is in Golok Vrindavan and you are there in Golok Vrindavan, you are with Krishna. So the point Srila Prabhupada was making is, it doesn't make a difference that you are with associated with Krishna in the material world or associated with Krishna in Golok Vrindavan. Krishna is Krishna, and the same feeling will be there. So basically, he said, don't worry about whether the decision is made that a person will go straight to Golok Vrindavan, as Prabhupada, through his mercy, has made it possible for us to go now by Lord Chaitanya's mercy also. Or a person goes to a place where in the material world that Krishna is having his pastimes, it is pretty much the same, because Krishna is the important personality. You are with him, period. You are with him. He performs pastimes in the spiritual world, he performs pastimes in a particular universe. And so once you go be that part of the pastime, you are really with Krishna at the time. So he said, don't worry too much about spiritual or material when you see Krishna in the next life. Don't worry about that, basically. Hare Krishna. So we stop here.
Thank you
Hare
so
Krishna.
much
Srila
for
Prabhupada
the
ki jai.
beautiful, beautiful pastimes, especially when the pastimes is always so nice to hear. And thank you for this amazing lecture. And yes, you know, what is really nice is to reach a Prabhupada saying that 1 + 1 = 1 and 1 - 1 = 1. So that was really powerful. And of course, that the famous Sri Upanishad verse that we have heard many times spoken to us, you know, in our classes. So thank you. We'd like to ask devotees if you have any questions, any comments, takeaways, you know, something that really hit you, something that you would like to share that you have heard in the class or heard from Srila Prabhupada's purport. Please do unmute yourself and share. We would really, really like to hear from you. One point that I would like to, don't know whether it's an ask or whether it's a comment or clarification, but I really like the point where you said that everything emanates from the Lord. Like, and you're mentioning this pastime of Dhruva Maharaj, you know, first he wanted a kingdom, but when the Lord touched his heart, I mean, his forehead, he didn't want anything but the Lord. In that same knowledge that we know of. We are caught up in this material world, where there's so many attractions that are always distracting us. We want this, we want this, we want this. But at the same time, we are practicing devotees who have been given the mercy by our spiritual master, to really take the process seriously, but at the same time, we are distracted. So how can, and of course, we know that it's not an overnight situation. It takes time. But how can we have that desire to really want to get that touch on our forehead and really, be attracted to the Lord more than the material attractions?
Very good question. Extremely good question. How can we be attracted more to the Lord than the material distractions that sometimes comes upon us, even as devotees? Dhruva Maharaj is a big example of that. Why did the Lord come to him and come to him so soon? Because of two things: his determination and his focus. His determination and his focus. So the things that we've been told by the spiritual master that we have to do, even if our minds are trying to tell us something different, we should overrule the minds and do it with great focus, so it becomes a habit, and now the mind can't stop us. Then we just keep doing it all the time. We see examples, Vasanyasis, sometimes they will get up, do whatever they have to do, So the determination should be there. And then when we're doing the service, we should be totally focused on that service. So Dhruva's time in the forest is a great, great example for us of how he comported himself, his determination. Now, of course, you can say it's an extreme situation. He was only 5 years old and he was in the forest, a place that was dangerous. But we even learn still from that. Because he wanted the Lord, even in a dangerous place, the Lord protected him. Even in a dangerous place, the Lord protected him. And then his desire, his determination to see the Lord, to ask for a big material universe, big material planet for himself, that was not the right thing to ask for, desire something material. But Narada Muni, because of the spiritual master, you see, we need to remember that part of the spiritual master's guidance. You take it like your heart, as your heart and soul. Srila Prabhupada literally was able to establish this society, taking Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur Maharaj's instructions as his heart and soul. So the same way, whatever we have been asked to do, we do it like a life or death situation. Great focus. Then that way, the more we focus, the more we determine, the less that material energy and material activities have effect on us. And I'm speaking from my own purification also, because it's just like little Maya comes in. If you focus, Maya comes in as a needle trying to get you to do something a little bit different, like that. And you fall into it. It happens to practically everybody, except the pure devotees. They won't have anything to do with anything. I remember, and I'll make say one point about this, about what happened to me literally. Many times I had to drive back Theatre Maharaj from one place to another. It was just him and he and me in the car. And if I brought up, usually he'll be reading something as I'm driving. If I brought up something or did something that was in the material level, he immediately stopped me. He won't have anything to do with it. Even if it was a question or something, he immediately stopped me. He had enough. No. He would not allow it, and I would immediately keep quiet. And so sometimes I would ask him things, spiritual things, and yeah, he'll stop and answer those. Otherwise, I just left him alone. So it was clear that he only wanted to hear things that were based on spiritual. In that way, he was also guiding me, stay with the spiritual, by his behavior towards me. So the spiritual master's way of doing things can be so instructive to us. Everybody knows Srila Prabhupada, what he has done, how he has behaved. If you don't know about him, go hear some of the recorded videos about his disciples and how in different situations, how Srila Prabhupada acted and how they themselves felt and what lessons they learned from it. You can learn a whole lot. And then hopefully by taking our chanting with very, 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 very serious, putting a lot of energy and concentration in it, then we will stay away from the material energy. Easier said than done, but it can be done. Hare Krishna. Okay.
Thank you for reminding us about that pastime, because I remember our Gurudev would, if it's material, he will not entertain. He would, in fact, he would either just smirk, you know, the little smirk he had on his face, and he would just keep on reading, or he would just ignore you. I remember that so clearly. Absolutely too. And you're right, is to help us to remember why we are here. The purpose, you know, is to really get deep into spirituality, deep into Krishna consciousness. Yes, thank you. Thank you for that. Anyone else would like to ask a question, share a realization, a reflection, you know, something that really hit them from this class? Please do unmute yourself. I know we have passed the 9 o'clock hour, and I'm just going down the list so that I don't miss anybody. And
I can add one more thing to about this. Again, and this may be seen by some people who are disciples of some spiritual masters, or they may not. Depends on how spiritual masters behave towards different devotees, and you know, for their own benefit. But sometimes, when you know what we just talked about, that you know, Guru Maharaj ignores us, we might not think. Some people may think, "Oh, maybe he doesn't like us or something." You know, and in one of his lectures, he mentioned that too. He says, "Well, I know I'm going to Gurudev, and Gurudev feels like he's always saying something, you know, to correct me, and he's got a frown on his face. Maybe he doesn't like me. I'll go to another devotee. You know that, you know, Gurudev does that to me, doesn't like me." And Gurudev said, "Well, many other disciples said, well, he does that to me too." And they have a big laugh about, oh, maybe Gurudev does not like, no. That's not the point. The point is we are stuck in the material energy, and Gurudev is trying very hard for our benefit to get us to get away from our material, the things that stop us, the material things to keep us from growing. But in his heart, he really loves everybody. So the spiritual masters are like that. They love their disciples, but they are like parents, and sometimes they would do things to chastise us, but because they want us to grow spiritually. That's the real reason. Hare Krishna.
Yeah, that's a very nice point. Realization, reflection, memory. Yes, thank you so much for sharing that. Thank you. Yes, Nitya Gopal, go ahead, Prabhu.
Hare Krishna Mataji, Prabhuji, all devotees.
Excellent, goes with Jai, August Prabhupada.
I was just thinking on the point in the purport Srila Prabhupada mentions, material energy don't have any influence in the spiritual world. But in material world, I mean, we can practice the spirituality. So I was thinking, you know, the world we are living is just temporary, one way. Neither we take anything from here back, nor it has anything from here utilized or used or have influence in the spiritual world. So that way just the temporary, and we should, you know, focus on the spiritual part of it, which is eternal and present all over the places. Just I was thinking on that point.
Yeah, very, very, very important point also, as Srila Prabhupada mentioned. I'm glad you brought it up. Yeah.
I'm glad too. Yes, that's a very nice point, Nitya Gopal. Absolutely. And it's a nice point for us to actually meditate on, actually, you know, and meditate on and really go deeper. And it's also not only, I feel, is it a thought to reflect on, but a thought to really go deeper within our Krishna consciousness, you know, and really see how much we are in that mode and how to come out of it. Yeah. Wow. Pretty powerful, Nitya Gopal. Thank you. You got me thinking. It's always nice because it's so powerful, you know, for us to really reflect on that. Yeah. How important it is for us to be more spiritual. Yes. Because like you said, we don't take anything from here. actually we come with nothing and we go with nothing.
Yeah.
Right.
You know, it's just that short time we are here, we try to claim everything, but the end we go with nothing. We go with nothing. And in
That
fact,
shows we
even
can't
when
claim anything.
we can, and not
We just think we can.
and then to add to that, when the body is cremated, right, it's the atma, it's the soul that comes out of this machine. So literally we don't own anything.
Right.
So it's
Yeah.
so
Yeah.
important. Yeah.
Bodily, all the attachment relations, we just drop it here and continue with our eternal identity soul.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. So it's so important to really go deeper and deeper, you know, and really meditate on, you know, how everything is so temporary. Nothing belongs to me. Everything belongs to the Lord. Nothing, everything is Krishna's energy, you know, like what Ram Babu was sharing with us in class yesterday, you know, everything is Krishna's energy. Everything is the Lord's paraphernalia. Everything is Krishna's property. Everything is owned by him. So we have to really see it that way and respect it and not own it. Yeah, very, very good point, Nitya Gopal. Thank you so much.
Use it in serving the Lord too, whatever we have.
Yeah. Yeah.
Give back. Give back.
And anything spiritual is concrete, and
Yes.
it is stays with us. I mean, that way, like even though we live in the temporary world, we have opportunity to render the service and add the spiritual credits in our account.
Mm.
Yes.
Yes, that's very important.
That never goes
That's what we
away.
live for.
Exactly. Yeah, that
That's
other
what we
part
live
of
for.
the life.
Yeah, because whatever we have done materially is not a loss.
Whatever we done spiritually is not a loss.
Sorry.
Spiritually.
Oh my God, my mind is going. Yes, whatever we have done spiritually, it is never. Yeah, materially it can go. It doesn't
No
carry
use.
any worth. No use.
Materially, materially
It's no use.
Exactly.
But
Right.
when it comes to spirituality, it's no loss. You know.
Mm.
Priti Mataji is saying, Hare Krishna, not even the Atma is our own, it belongs to the Lord. Yes, everything belongs, we belong to the Lord completely, everything. Anything that's material has no weight, right? But everything that we do spiritually, there is no loss. We pick up where we left off and we continue the journey. That's the blessing. That's the beauty of Krishna consciousness. Yes, very nice point, Nitya Gopal. Thank you so much. Very nice.
Wonderful thought from Mataji. Atma is belong to Krishna, so ultimately we are part and parcel of him.
Yes. Even the soul belongs to the Lord. So which means we belong to the Lord. The Lord owns us, you know, like you were saying, when we leave this body, we drop all relations, attachments, relative, family. Nothing matters anymore.
Yep.
The soul just goes to the Lord because the Lord owns us. What a beautiful
way to end this.
Yeah, I was gonna say
Meditation.
it's such a beautiful meditation, you know. Such a beautiful meditation. Thank you, Preeti, for sharing that. Beautiful, beautiful, beautiful. And Nitya Gopal, thank you for stirring it up to help us
remember,
in.
yeah, one of the analogy. Thank you, Mataji. One of the analogy Hiranyakashipu gives when his brother dies, he says that, you know, our life is like the logs flowing in the water. With the wave they come, and with the matter of time they will separate it. That's how our life. That's true.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's beautiful.
Families are formed like that, like little twigs, and come together, and one day they separate, and another life, so on. That's like that.
Yeah. This is the power and the beauty of having this morning classes and sharing the realization and helping us to stay focused and helping us to really dive into Bhagavatam and Chaitamrita and all the scriptures, because that's all Krishna conscious. It's all Krishna. That's the beauty of coming together every morning. It's beautiful. I'm relishing it, no matter what. I'm relishing it. Thank you so much, Nitya Gopal. Very nice points. Thank you. Yeah, and thank you to all the devotees for joining us and ending with such a beautiful note from what Nitya Gopal shared and Preeti shared. Thank you so much. It's a beautiful meditation to really focus and meditate on until we meet again on Sunday.
Monday.
Well, this Sunday is a class where we will be speaking and sharing pastimes of Lord Jagannath to prepare our mood for Rath Yatra. We're going to be discussing, sharing and speaking and talking and reminiscing Lord Jagannath's pastimes so that we can get ready and geared up for Rath Yatra next weekend. Until then, Vanchakaptibhyascha, Kripasindhavevcha, Patitanam Pavanebhyo, Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Have a wonderful weekend, devotees. Hari Hari
Hare
Bol.
Krishna. Jai.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.